So, you're a sprout. You see that everybody's excited for Endwalker, and you don't know what to do. That's kind of my position. I mean, hell, maybe you're even leveled up. Perhaps there's other things you're maybe thinking you should really do before Endwalker, or maybe other FF games that you maybe should play because Endwalker seems to reference those games. Well, I'm very lucky in that I'm surrounded by, full span of the game FF14 vets. Seriously, those guys are champs, and with their help, well, I've got a lot more knowledge, and a lot that I'm excited to do, so today I am going to share that with you. This is also a new channel, so I'm kind of obligated to say, hey, like and sub, help us out, we're having a bunch of fun here. Alright, let's go. Obviously, the most important thing to do is, of course, to catch up on the MSQ. That'll be my thing. FF14 is a linear game, so if you've not completed all of the MSQ quests, Endwalker's launch won't actually have new content for you to do. But absolutely do take your time. I would say that this is a story to be carefully savored, not rushed through. Don't ruin it that way. I really need to stress that point. But if you are all caught up, well, what else is there to do? That's the real meat of the video. FF14 is extremely dense. It's full of content that floods the story with context. Every bit of optional story content expands the world or its characters, and for the full experience, you owe it to yourself to seek it out. But if you're a newer player or maybe a bit more of a casual to the game, like myself, well, there's a bunch of stuff that I didn't know exists, but now I do. Here are some examples. The Coils of Bahamut. It's the true finale to A Realm Reborn, but it's entirely optional and a little awkward to do today. And the game actually does let you just pass over entirely. But Natsuko Ishikawa loves taking her older work and expanding upon it, as evidenced by making the Crystal Tower Raid series mandatory for Shadowbringers. She is still the MSQ writer for the Endwalker expansion, and while nothing new is actually mandatory, at least as far as we've been told, there are still bits that are important. So first off, Ishikawa wrote Coils, so she's likely going to revisit what was done there. Then, Yoshi P himself made a suggestion in PC Gamer that players should complete the Omega Raid series from Stormblood, and something very like Omega was actually in the benchmark, so that's almost certainly a pretty big tease. Next, of course, then, is the Heavensward Alliance raids. Without going into details, because I myself didn't want to be spoiled, it provides a lot of context on a specific plot thread that will be tied in a very neat bow in Endwalker, so that's worth doing. For that same plot thread, the Shadowbringers role quests are also important but easy to miss, since they do require having a tank healer, physical DPS, and a magical DPS at level 80, so you can get to work on that one. So to sum it up, do Coils of Bahamut, the ARR raids, then do the Alliance raids from Heavensward, which is Shadows of Mach, well, whatever. Then the Stormblood Omega raids, and lastly, the Shadowbringers role quests. All of those and the neat little follow-up to them. None of these are literally required, by the way, but the more understanding you have going into this expansion, the more ways, you can actually enjoy what the writers are weaving through and underneath the main events. It'll just enhance your appreciation. Then I should add, there's also technically Eureka, which is the Stormblood side content zone. You can do that for some extra history on Sharlayan culture and primals. That can be done, however, it is also a massive grind, and it's arguably the least relevant thing here, so I'd say everything else we've covered is a priority. Then finally, for story, it could just be worth refreshing yourself. New Game Plus exists as a way to play the old story content again, so it might be worth doing some of those key parts of, say, ARR again, kind of refreshing yourself on Ishikawa's work, on things then like Azim Step, that section from Stormblood, or maybe some of what happens at the end of Shadowbringers. As an example, I've just done ARR. Matt, who you've seen, of course, in stream, he did that so long ago, there's bits that are hazy in his memory that I actually, know a little bit more of than him, because I've just done it, so just an example it could be worth revisiting. There are so many little things you might kick yourself for not remembering when they're inevitably brought up again, And, knowing them will, of course, improve your Endwalker experience massively and help all those plot threads come together in that real creamy way. Now's the perfect time to sit down and really contemplate what job are you going to play in Endwalker. Now, the media tour information is going to start coming out around October 13th. Decently soon, so we will have more information then. But in terms of the broad strokes, we do know what is up. So I'd say go check out what job changes are coming, from the job actions trailer, and evaluate what you actually want to go with. Unless you want to hop onto Reaper or Sage immediately, or fancy the new Summoner, you can make great use of your time now, right? Just getting that bad boy up to level 80 and getting a bit of practice in. Now, since the team are happy with most of the Shadowbringers' job directions going forward, that just does mean that your time spent understanding them now isn't really something that's going to be wasted by changes. Mostly, they seem to evolve and feel better, but the same fundamentals are still going to apply. Just don't get super attached to your openers. It's also worth trying out jobs you're not sure if you'll like. Every job's got something going for it, so you might just have fun there. Plus, more jobs equals more story content to do, and that's always fun. If you've been dragging your feet on doing the Shadowbringers endgame, or like me, are just going to get there in the nick of time, hopefully, and you want to get your glams good for your Endwalker jobs, well, queue times are likely going to explode once the expansion comes out. I mean, it's technically true of everything, but the Eden sets are gorgeous. I mean, I see them in Limsa and kind of go, ooh, I want that. So those are awesome, and recent content will likely be hit the hardest in terms of queue times when the new expansion comes out. It even takes a while right now to get into the earlier near raids, so if you want a bigger butt, seize the moment. I know Matt's desperate to get some of the Edenmorn stuff for his ninja before too long, and man, my ninja's well before his, so hopefully I can make it in time. Now remember, you're going into a new expansion full of story cutscenes, so you're going to be a part of those cutscenes. You probably want to look the part and look cool. That said, you've got obviously plenty of creative freedom. I mean, hey, Warriors of Light are looking pretty strange these days. Then also, as a more minor point, this is the last time you'll be able to experience this content as exactly intended. From here on, it will generally be easier to do with some of the job changes. Well, if the downscaling values goes as intended at least. Now for some of you FF players, this is the first downscaling that you've been a part of. Of course, WoW veterans are used to them. Some of us like them, some of us don't feel great about them, but they're a thing, the downscaling. Over in FF though, the team have promised that they will keep a very close eye on everything to keep just everything close to as it was. And they have an enhanced echo option planned to keep soloing intact. So that's all great. However, plans rarely survive contact with the enemy, and unforeseen bugs with changing battle calculations is a pretty damn common enemy. So, from a World of Warcraft background, I guess here are our safety measures, because we've been through this a few times. If you want to run old content solo or with a small party in order to get mounts and glams, now is a really good time to do it. If something ends up going wrong with the downscaling, you don't want to end up struggling to maybe get the mounts that you know you could have farmed easily right now. That literally happened with the most recent WoW expansion. And compared to new content and any Endwalker fixes, I think fixing that old content will of course have to be a lower priority for the devs. That said, for what it's worth, I don't actually expect anything to go majorly wrong, but hey, you can never be too sure. And finally for content, if you're working on the Save the Queen storyline in Bolgia, or prefer getting Resistance relic steps in there, do try to get as far as you can before Endwalker launches. Castrum Lacus Latore and Delirium Regene are likely going to have, of course, a lot fewer people doing them once the new content is in full swing and people are over there. So it is the most efficient, if you really want to get those things done, sort of do them all hardcore, do them now, while those hardcore speedrunning groups are still nuking the place down. You might get lucky for the first few weeks as people level Reaper and Sage and Bolgia, but after that, it might get a bit more quiet. Now, the most annoying stuff, all the miscellaneous things, and man, I'll be far behind in this. As far as guild making is concerned, now might not be the best time, but if your inventory is full of stuff, you're going to be kicking yourself, a few days into Endwalker, of course. So here's just more of a general organizational checkup. Check your inventory, armory, chest, and saddlebag. Make sure you've got room, plenty of room for all of the Endwalker materials and gear. It's just worth doing all that cleanup beforehand. Also, make sure you have room in your dresser to add your current gear once it gets replaced. It does take a while to work through dumping all of your stuff onto the market board, but it is better selling it for cheap now than having a super frustrating November. Remember, you'll be saying goodbye to your belts, goodbye to many HQ materials, but hello to tons of new stuff, and adjust accordingly. Nothing makes you feel more prepared for a new adventure than a heavy purse and a light bag. This is only sort of a joke, but it's maybe kind of serious. I won't get to this, but Matt and our team will be doing this, and it is play Final Fantasy IV. Look at how Meteor is posed here. Does that seem familiar? Shadowbringer's Meteor was a Dark Knight, and now he's had a job change to Paladin, found a flying whale, and made his way to the moon. So he's literally FF4 Cecil. To be fair, it's not like they're stealing that story, they just love the Final Fantasy series, obviously, and like to throw in the references and the nods. There are seriously so many details in FF14, they're love letters to the franchise's history. Most of all would be the entirety of the Crystal Tower raid being adapted from Final Fantasy III's Crystal Tower. Sometimes it's just nice fan service, sometimes it's reusing elements to perfection, and Endwalker looks to do the same with Final Fantasy IV. The gorgeous Pixel remaster was released recently too, so if you've cleared everything in this list or just don't want to do them, a quick run through the inspiration might help you love and appreciate Endwalker even more when it comes out. Finally, relax, because if you're as excited about Endwalker as most of us are, you might need to sort out other bits of your life first, right? Think about your game backlog. Maybe there's some other things to do. Maybe some long walks out at night, spending time with your family and friends, to build up all of that goodwill and capital so that you can say, hey, don't bother me when this thing comes out. Most importantly, stock up on that emotional energy that you're going to need to enjoy Endwalker to its fullest. This expansion's launch is I think quite literally a once-in-a-lifetime event. It's the culmination of a decade of setup from one of the best writing teams working in video games today. Never mind just MMOs. So it would be a disservice to yourself if you, burnt yourself out before then and did enjoy it to your fullest. So there you go. That is what happened when I kind of thought, I'm only making my way into this game. Endwalker's coming out, and I've got there's the likes of Matt, who you've seen in the live stream, but then there's then also the other Matt and Tom, who are the 10-year vets in our free company. And it was just kind of like, hey, what should I do? What should I know? Because one of the unique opportunities we've got with this channel is that I'm a Sprout, and we know that FF14 has exploded. So many of you are Sprouts. I'm surrounded by a bunch of vets, so I can kind of get the knowledge, the tips, the tricks from my veteran friends, and hopefully pass it on to you guys in a way that's nice and accessible. So I hope you found that interesting. Of course, this is a new channel. There'll be lots of videos on it between FF and, of course, other games too. So be sure to like and sub, because it is YouTube, and I do have to say that. And have a great day. I'll see you next time.